Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Hello there, baseball fans. Welcome inside another edition. It is the Bmore Baseball Podcast. I'm Jerry Coleman. He's the Orioles Hall of Famer, the 14-year MLB veteran. It's Mike Bordick. We're producing brand new content every day on our Instagram, our X, and our Facebook page. You can find them all at Bmore Sports Pod. You can also subscribe to our YouTube portion of the podcast. When you do that at Bmore Sports Pod, show us evidence you subscribe and you qualify instantly for a $50 gift card, compliments of Lido Pizza, again at Bmore Sports Pod. Today, it's episode number 24, Bordy. We'll be joined by former Oriole and current Cubs bench coach Ryan Flaherty. We'll also provide our thoughts on Mike Elias's flurry of trades before the trade deadline. There were quite a few. I got to tell you about my trip to see the Savannah Bananas, and Dr. Michael Jacobs will chime in on Grayson Rodriguez's elbow and maybe shoulder. We'll talk about what's ahead for the Orioles pitcher. But let's bring in our featured guest. He is sponsored by Pappas Seafood. From crab cakes to seafood classics, they'll deliver straight to your door. 4 locations in the Baltimore area, plus nationwide shipping. Order today simply at pappascrabcakes.com. That's pappascrabcakes.com, and they do ship them to Wrigley Field. We welcome in Cubs bench coach and, of course, former Oriole Ryan Flaherty. Ryan, terrific to have you on the podcast. Cubs just faced the Orioles, so let's just start right there. And your impressions on what you saw from the other side. You guys, of course, took 2 of 3 from the Orioles, but this was a team that was just coming off a flurry of deals after the trade deadline. I don't know if they were in shell shock or not, but what did you gather in speaking to your former team?
Yeah, it was good to see a lot of those guys, Buck, Tony, a lot of those coaches over there. And, obviously coming right off the deadline, they had a bunch of roster moves to make and fill out that 26-man roster. But, it was a good series. They snuck one out and took one from us game 2. And, it was fun to see those guys. And they certainly, they have a good young core. Those 4 young players they hit at the top of the order are, a good nucleus. And, I just think overall the health of the organization looks like they're in a good spot. I know it was a little bit of a hiccup this year, but, they're in a good position moving forward for sure.
Well, you guys are in a great position too, but you just mentioned the trades with the Orioles and, how they're kind of set up for the future. The Cubs are in a position to go to the World Series. What did you think about their activity at the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think Jed, Carter, Counts. I think the 3 of the leadership here had to, was balancing, the health of the org this year and where we are and, where we're going to be moving forward. I know they talked a ton in the offseason about building a roster that can go out and win the division. And, they did that. And where we are here on August 1st is we're in a good position. And, we got to keep playing well. We got 2 months left to play. And but overall, we're in a good position.
If you were to think that the Cubs had any kind of weakness or something that you're looking to improve on here the last couple months to some way catch up with the Brewers, what would that be?
I mean, I think everyone, outside of a few organizations is searching for pitching. It's pitching, whether it's starters, relievers. And, if you pitch, you cover a lot of different areas. And I think that's, that's just something down the stretch that, I think, like I said, we're in a good position. And, the remaining 2 months is if we pitch, we'll be there in the end for sure.
No, don't know about it.
Oh, go ahead, Bordy.
No, I was just going to say, just talk about Ryan's career now as a bench coach with the Cubs. I mean, pretty impressive spot. You've got one of the best managers in the game sitting right beside you, and you're in his ear. I know as a bench coach, you got a lot of stuff to do. The one thing you don't have to do is literally sit in front of the media and answer a lot of questions unless you get that interim spot like you've had in the past. But your experience now with the Padres organization as a coach and being in that crazy National League West division and now up in the Central, and I think just coming back from the Orioles lineage, right? Because you guys were in the postseason all the time. Can you kind of compare these 3 divisions, and is there a different type of intensity or how they play baseball in all 3, because they were all top notch at the time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the AL East has a storied, history of, competition with the teams that are in that division. And, to compete in that division is, it's no easy task. Some of the payrolls that are in that division, and you got to win on the margins. When you're playing in the East, and that's certainly the case in the West too. When you're going up against the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks and the Giants. You got to find winning on the margins, and I think it's winning's winning. Whether it's in the West, East, now we're in the Central, and the Brewers have played really well. They got the best record in baseball, which I don't think many people expected. But the thing we were talking about earlier is they can really pitch. So here they are on August 1st, and we're finding ourselves competing with them. So I think baseball is baseball. Winning baseball is winning baseball. It's just I think the challenges in each division and what you're going up against changes.
I got to ask you about Wrigley Field, because to me, it's one of the great advantages weather-wise in baseball, and you guys can play it to your advantage unless guys are trying to hit home runs with the wind blowing in. And I know you've talked about this in the past where maybe you try to change the mindset of some of these hitters, because if you're trying to swing for the fences with the wind blowing in at Wrigley, it's, you're fighting Mother Nature, and that's very difficult.
Yeah, it's honestly something in my first year here, and I think Council's first year, that maybe we underestimated. And I know this past year with the position player group really spent a time talking about embracing Wrigley and what it brings, and being able to win in both different environments, because it truly is two different games. I think when the wind's blowing out, you're solving for one thing, and then the wind's blowing in, and it's a totally different game. You got to be able to make contact, get the ball in play, run the bases, play, elite defense. And the small things really show up when that wind's blowing in, and any bit of mistake, and then the one run feels like at times like it's 3 runs. So that's something with this position player group we spend a ton of time on addressing and talking about how to win in both environments, really.
I think what's really interesting, Ryan, you've I think can play both sides of the analytics and a former player as well. So a nice mesh. And Adam Jones actually talked about that. But when you talk about winning on the margins, from an analytics standpoint, some of the teams that I see that have success offensively are low strikeout teams. And in this modern day, it just seems like strikeout rates are through the roof. But teams that have success put the ball in play, like you said. Is that I mean, I understand you're saying that with the wind blowing in, but shouldn't that be a proven winning strategy from jump, like game one?
Yeah, I think that the 3 true outcome, result of the game, the walk, the strikeout, and the homer, I think some of that's kind of come back down to earth in the last 2 years, and really with the rule changes and the shift and the stolen bases. And, I think there's more ways to create offense outside of what was happening in maybe 2018 to 2022. So I think some of that's come down. And certainly, the ability to make contact is extremely important. I think you've seen a lot of teams, move more towards that. And, I think that certainly makes up a good offensive player, is the ability to get the ball in play, for sure.
We talked about you being right there on the Cubs bench. You were very close to being named the manager of the Padres. While with that team, you obviously have ambitions to be at that level. Obviously, you feel you're ready, and you've completely accepted and embraced analytics, unlike a lot of your contemporaries, it seems, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what that means. I know like the word, the analytics.
Well, we got all right, let me stop you here. We got a guy who's also on the podcast joining us, who I don't think has embraced analytics like some of the other guys.
Are you talking about me?
I could be.
Who says that? I haven't embraced analytics? What are we talking about? I don't mind working with analytics.
All right. Well, let's hear what Ryan has to say. Sorry, Bordy, for throwing you under the proverbial bus.
No, I think the word, I think like the analytic word gets thrown out there, and it's almost like, the boogeyman word, and like, what does it really mean? And, it's obviously up for interpretation, and, there's narratives that come with the word, but I do think there's things that we, can evaluate now or see now or, better project now. I guess an example I'll use on it is, maybe 10 years ago we'd just look at right versus left splits, and now I think we break it down into, okay, well, what kind of pitcher is it, Felix Bautista, or is it Yennier Cano? And I think, how we look at hitters and how they match up versus each one of those pitchers. They're two totally different pitchers. And, maybe now we have more information to better analyze and predict, who's going to be better off those matchups. So, I think the word as a whole, really in the last, like I talked about the 3 true outcome, I think the game went in a certain direction. And I think at times there was frustration with, the overall product of baseball and what it had become. And the game was turning into 4 hours and there were so many strikeouts and it was a walk, strikeout, or homer. And I think really Major League Baseball did a good job, after 2022 and, with the rule changes and the pitch clock and really banning the shift and, the stolen bases and the disengagements. And really the product right now, I think's, it's pretty strong, quite frankly. And, the games are moving along quick. There was a time in 2022 when I was with the Padres that I watched a game that started at 7:05 and the ball had not been put in between the white lines until 7:22. So for 17 minutes, there was, foul balls or strikeouts or walks. And I think really what MLB did was try to address that. So the game's moving along faster pace. And, I think, it's in a good spot right now.
More of the Bmore Baseball podcast coming right up. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too, if you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery. You could win instantly, or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every grand slam. Sounds like a ball, if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
Hello, my name is Reese Friedman, and I'm the daughter of Stephen L. Friedman and Rachel Friedman.
Hi, I'm Reese Friedman, a little bit older from the last time you saw me, but still the daughter of Stephen and Rachel Friedman and the granddaughter of Michael Friedman. Now, I'm here to tell you that the law offices of Michael Friedman are still the experts in the field of personal injury accident law. So if you or a loved one have been seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident, I do not want you to hesitate. Call us at 410-363-6848 or email us directly from our website, maflaw.com, for a free consultation. The law offices of Michael Friedman, serving the community for over 40 years.
Jerry Coleman here. I've been a client of the law offices of Michael A. Friedman for well over 25 years now. From motor vehicle accidents to other tort-related issues, 410-363-6848, or find them on their website at maflaw.com.
Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week, only at Relief Shop.
Yeah, I think so too. At least moving in the right direction. Ryan, you now that you're kind of up on this echelon as potential manager in the big leagues, along the way there must have been some great influences, and I know for a fact that your dad must have had a huge influence on you. Growing up in Maine, you were obviously a great athlete, and up until recently, probably one of Maine's greatest athletes. I'm sorry, Cooper Flagg might have taken that over here recently, but can you talk about maybe your dad's influence and then maybe some players along the way or other coaches that may have influenced you to get to this point?
Yeah, obviously my dad, I think he was the one who introduced me to baseball, and just being around his baseball program and a college coach for 40 years, I think he's been the biggest influence in baseball in my life. And, we certainly have these debates that we're talking about now, and, strikeouts and, walks and teams using openers and, why the starter's out of the game in the third inning. So, we like to have healthy debates after the game and argue over why what's happening. But, I think, he was a huge influence. And, I think, from a coaching standpoint, just having been influenced by a lot of great coaches, Bobby, Dickerson was there, you were there, I think growing up as a kid, you were the only other person I knew from Maine that played. So I think when I finally came to Baltimore and to be able to sit there and like hear you talk about defense it was special, quite frankly. And, I think just having good coaches, I mean, coaching's important, and it's, I think at times it can be devalued. But I think, if anything, it's more important now than ever. And, I think the teams that are winning certainly have that. And, it's important for, they always use the word player development now and developing at the major leagues. And, really what they're saying is you need good coaches who can bring young players along and make them great players.
Yeah, well said. Hey, one quick thing, and I know this is a little off topic. Did you ever get recruited to play football in college?
Well, that's up for debate. I don't know. I tell people I did, and then my dad said I wasn't really recruited that well. So I don't know. My memory is a little different than his was, but I thought I could have played football. He didn't think I could, so I don't know what the answer is.
You're a two-sport great athlete. Actually, you played hoops too, right? So you did it all. But pretty impressive stuff right there. Coming from Maine and now a superstar. And unfortunately, wearing that Vanderbilt shirt. Yeah, I thought you might throw a Black Bears shirt on, or at least something supporting your dad for Southern Maine. But good stuff. Now, there is an awesome link. You're wearing that Vandy shirt. The Vandy boys are everywhere in baseball. And that's a nice kind of fraternity to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, when I went to Vanderbilt 25 years ago, at the time, I had this dream of going to Clemson my whole life. And, the connection with Jack Leggett and Maine, I just thought I was going to go to Clemson and play there. And he was the one who kind of pushed me to go to this school in Nashville. And at the time, I had never heard of it. And it's certainly wasn't what it was now. And, at the time, Jack said, look, this is a program that, Coach Corbin's, really going to build. He's a great coach. He's got a great vision for what he's trying to do there. And, to see what it's become now and the people that have come out of there and how they're spread across baseball, it's cool to see. You obviously have that connection with every time you see him on the other side, you go over and catch up with him. So, it's a nice little connection that stems from Coach Corbin.
Absolutely. Ryan, I did want to ask you about the balance now that you're a coach and a former player. And sometimes do you have to find a way to separate yourself knowing that, you're not one of the guys anymore? You've been away from it for a while, but sometimes you get drawn back into maybe player conversations with the guys and realize, wait a minute, I'm dressing in a different locker room now.
Yeah. I think you're always in there. And I think that's, here in Chicago and Council, I think he talks about the word connection all the time. And really, to connect, you got to spend time and be around people. And that's, really what gets the most out of, the word culture that everyone uses. But, I think players connecting with players, coaches connecting with players, really everybody that's down there in that locker room, the ability to connect with people is really what drives, strong conversations and then really holds people accountable, which is what you're trying to do. So you're even now, 6 years removed from playing, you got to go in there and talk to the guys. And so, yeah.
Hey, Ryan, can you talk a little bit about your time in Baltimore? Because, covering that team for about 6 years, a postseason team, you were the super utility player on that team. And if you were on the Orioles team this year, you would have caught, because you were the third string catcher for the Orioles back then, and the Orioles lost like 5 catchers. But your experiences, and I always thought you were always ready to play, but you showed up when the team needed you most bad. You were a postseason hero. You always went above and beyond. I enjoyed calling your career, but you were around guys like Adam Jones, who's going in the Oriole Hall of Fame, J.J. Hardy, Matt Wieters, Nick Markakis, some really good players.
Yeah. I think, it was a good time in Baltimore. I think just to see the turnout then and, it was a special time. I think it was able to play at a team that was, very successful. And I always joke now that, had I played in a team that wasn't successful, my career wouldn't have lasted as long as it was. So I think, having those guys and having Adam and a lot of just older players that, we talked about the word accountability earlier. There was accountability on those teams on how to play the game correctly. And there was younger players, Manny, myself, that, were paired with those older players And, certainly felt like, we learned to play the game correct. And there was a lot of player accountability, like I said. It was a great 6 years in my life for sure.
Well, I'll end on this because Adam's going into the Orioles Hall of Fame this weekend. Buck is introducing them, two guys that you're familiar with. You know that combo and the influence, I guess, they may have had on your career. I'm not so sure about Adam, but certainly Buck.
Yeah, I mean, I think the things Buck talked about that time, was, pitching, defense, and the 3-run homer, kind of like Earl Weaver. But I think, from being a position player, I always felt like, playing for Buck was, they required you to play defense. And I know even now, as a coach that, how important defense is and how much it supports pitching. And you really talk about the word run prevention or whatever. It's like, if you have an elite defense, you help the pitching staff so much. And I think that's something Buck talked about a lot and believed in. And, I think that's no different now than it was then. Adam, I think, Adam played the game as good as any, it was as good of an example for a younger player to have and how to play the game. Whether he hit a grounder in the 6 hole, he ran the ball out, he posted every day and played. I think what he meant to the city and what, the city meant to him, I think were two things that were, really cool to watch. And he really was just the definition of a baseball player. He could do everything. He could run, he could hit for power, he could hit for average, he could play defense. And just when you think of the word baseball player, I think Adam Jones is, probably one of the first people you think of when it comes to that.
Great. Hey, Ryan, really appreciate you joining us. Very grateful for taking the time. I'm watching you sit outside there in Chicago, and all I can think about is the Blues Brothers, because I remember that scene where I think it was Jake. He lived outside a place where there was a train rolling by, and I'm waiting for a train to roll by, like in the Blues Brothers. I don't know why.
The other option, I can go inside and there's 3 kids screaming inside.
Well, that's okay. I'm sure you're happy to be outside right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Brian, thanks so much, brother.
Yeah.
Great seeing you,
man. Guys having me on. Good to see you, Bordy. Good to
Best
see you.
Best of luck to you, man, going forward.
More of the Bmore Baseball Podcast coming right up. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles.
In a city where passion runs deep, on the stage and on the field, Baltimore knows how to bring the heat. Whether it's a game-winning home run or a breathtaking violin solo, this town plays to win. The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra champions the creative soul of our city with bold performances of classically captivating music. Join the team that brings precision, power, and heart to every performance. Learn more and get your season tickets now at thebco.org.
They say it all comes back to your roots, right? At Grassroots, high-quality cannabis is in their nature. From soil to soul, their passion for cannabis and community inspires everything they do. Try your favorite strains from their cultivar library of top-shelf flower, pre-rolls, and concentrates. Whether you're cheering from the stands or chanting for the O's at home, their crafted flower helps you curate the perfect game day. Ask for Grassroots Cannabis at your favorite dispensary in Maryland. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
All right, let's advance to our For the Birds portion, of course, brought to us by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. Playing the Maryland Lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not about your favorite games. Learn the facts and myths at mdlottery.com. That's mdlottery.com. And as always, please play responsibly. So, Bordy, Orioles conducted 9 trades during the month of July. And what was a sell-off to me? I mean, I got some pushback on social media when I used the term sell-off. Is there another word that you would use to describe it?
No, that is an absolute sell-off. I mean, they only kept their core players, the ones that Mike Elias, covets so highly. Everybody else, under contract guys they had even locked up for next year, gone. This is a rebuild. Yeah, sure, keep a couple of young players, but they have to build a whole new bullpen. They got to find some more starters, that's for sure. And you just lost a couple of your best offensive players in O'Hearn and Laureano, and one of the best defensive center fielders in the game. So there's a lot to cover now. I don't know if the young players that he got back are going to fill those voids right now. I don't see it happening. I think what he did was intentionally kind of rebuild the organization, at least the minor league levels. And now it's going to see what the heck is going to happen in the offseason, because there's got to be a lot of filling with major league caliber players.
Yeah, to me, those prospects are suspects until proven otherwise. But let's talk about the proven commodities that are gone. Cedric Mullins and what he had to endure, the good and the bad with the Orioles, moves on to the Mets. You're familiar with that situation.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, Cedric did some great things for the Orioles, historic things. First ever 30-30 in a uniform. Surprised he never hoisted the gold glove, but incredible defender out there. Maybe the only thing lacking was his arm, but as far as glove work, he's as good as anybody. His lines out there, pursuit angles to balls are right on. Just a great veteran defender, and I know he's going to do some good things up there with the Mets. I know that I got traded to the Mets, and next thing you know, I was back here in an Oriole uniform. That could potentially happen with Cedric Mullins.
What about Charlie Morton? I mean, he was a late pickup by the Orioles. He proved to be a lot better than we thought after a very rough start. Now he's a Tiger. And then you can address Ramon Arias. You already talked about the departure of O'Hearn and Laureano.
Yeah, I think Charlie Morton was really interesting. I don't know that many teams would have stuck with him the way the Orioles did. But I guess they had about 15 million reasons why, because he was hands down the worst pitcher in baseball for well over a month. And they stuck with him. They said, hey, go out to the pen and try to fix yourself a little bit. And he did. He made an adjustment. He was able to find the strike zone again. And Charlie Morton has been on a run now for about 5 years where he's found his best version of himself. I think he's going to really help. And it would be nice to see him get in the postseason. And maybe this will be a swan song. Who knows? He might come back for year 42. As far as Arias goes, listen, I always thought he was undervalued for the Orioles. He was the most consistent glove guy. When he took ground balls next to all the Oriole young infielders, you could tell he had the major league internal clock. This guy knows how to play major league defense, and I think he was a great example for a lot of the young infielders, and I hope they just watched and learned from him. He's a major league utility player, and I think you're going to see him for another 8 or 10 years probably playing in the major leagues.
Now, finally, you touched on the bullpen, and Felix Bautista, it doesn't seem likely he's going to come back. I don't see the point in bringing him back, but they traded everyone from Dominguez to Baker. I don't know how they're going to close games going forward. That's going to be dicey once you get past the 6th inning with this team.
Yeah, well, there's really no high leverage reliever left. I mean, I know Aiken has kind of tried to step up, but he blew a save the other day. He's kind of Powder River too. He takes his chance with his fastball, and I would not like to be the manager taking the chance with him in the 9th inning. All these guys are on audition right now. There are 5 high leverage relievers that need to be put into an Orioles bullpen, and I don't see any of them on the field right now. Nobody has electric enough stuff, dominant stuff to be a World Series contending bullpen. So a lot of work has to be done. A lot of money is going to have to be paid out this offseason. Unless some kind of diamond in the rough emerges here over the last 2 months of the season, I think that's really the hope of this organization.
Yeah, that would be a pleasant surprise, but I don't think anyone's betting on that. Next up is Baltimore and Beyond. It's brought to you by Relief Shop, Baltimore's best adult use and medical cannabis dispensary. 700 plus unique menu items and home delivery available for medical patients, only courtesy of Relief Shop. So the world famous Savannah Bananas made their trip to Camden Yards, their debut, if you will, last weekend. It it wasn't a home run, Bordy. It was a grand slam. 2 sellouts in 2 nights. Orioles have had 2 sellouts all season long. This is where baseball meets the musical, meets gymnastics, meets comedy, meets the circus. It was mesmerizing. I mean, it was sensory overload, but it's a money machine they have going right now, and it's only growing. And I don't know if Major League Baseball can take a page from this. You're not going to have a pitcher or hitter on stilts, but the entertainment value is off the hook. And you could tell there were a lot of folks from Baltimore there because you heard it during the O and the national anthem.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it. Baltimore's a baseball town for sure. Savannah Bananas are a unique kind of item right now, and they are shocking the world, and everybody loves to see them. Outfielders doing backflips, infielders catching balls between their legs. It's so much fun. I love the rules too, and to see the talent level of every one of these guys. Not only can they play baseball, but they're gymnasts. They can sing, they can dance. It is just sheer entertainment nonstop. Your eyes better be ready to go because there is something happening all over the place. I love it. I think it's great for the game. Listen, you can go back in time, man. The clown prince of baseball who was throwing dirt in his mouth and spitting it out and kind of getting jokes on the sideline. That has all kind of evolved over the years. And I think fans kind of liked it, the in-between inning kind of activities. They got excited about it. Well, the Savannah Bananas put it all together and then some. And this is quite a show to watch.
Yeah, they are truly the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. But to me, it's a longer version, obviously, because baseball is a lot longer. Their pregame starts about 4 hours before the first pitch and just nonstop, even an hour after the game with a concert and all that. So it's just unbelievable entertainment and fair price tickets. I mean, the upper deck was packed. They make sure to have players and people enter the upper deck area so everyone gets touched by the Bananas, no matter where you're sitting inside the stadium.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. They do it right from that standpoint. I think they do have a pretty good plan and understanding of what they want to do to bring people into the seats. The tickets are cheap, and I think this is just modern day kind of entertainment because the social media following for each and every one of these Savannah Bananas and the other team as well is just through the roof. So the whole world is really like following these guys, and that's why they're packing in coliseums and stadiums and everywhere.
All right, I'll let the cat out of the bag. Next week, we're going to have Adam Jones on the podcast. He played with them. We'll ask him about his experience. But I will tell you, I do worry about the way they're growing right now and the players noticing all the money that's flowing in and wondering about their cut, and the dancing umpires too. Could there be unionization down the road for these guys and try to form their own union, to make sure they get their fair cut?
Well, it's going to be pretty interesting. And I will say this too, Major League Baseball is kind of eyeballing them. They might slide right into the MLB union. You never know what's going to happen, but no doubt about it, man, the money is just off the chain for these guys. So there's got to be some way to kind of regulate it up a little bit.
Yeah, they should be talking to their financial people and their accountants about getting a bigger cut, in my opinion. We'll see what happens, though. Pure entertainment and a great job by the Bananas. Yeah. All right, let's get medical, Bordy. It's our What's Up, Doc segment, sponsored by the law offices of Michael A. Friedman, my personal attorneys for over 25 years. There's always a live person when you call the law offices of Michael A. Friedman. You do it at 410-363-6848. No better attorney firm in Baltimore than the law offices of Michael A. Friedman. And before we bring in the doc, let's hear from the VP and GM Mike Elias about Grayson Rodriguez.
And this would not be an elbow reconstruction. It would be a debridement of some bone that needs to be removed.
And that was Mike Elias, Doc, before the surgery with Grayson Rodriguez. So the Orioles now have multiple starting pitchers who are hurt. Let's focus on Grayson right now. And the decision has been made. He's done again before the season is over. What is your sense in bringing these guys back at this juncture? And what do you make of what Elias had to say about Grayson's situation?
Well, obviously, they've given up on the season, which is logical. And they've had the major trade deadline moves. So there's no point doing anything but getting ready for next season. It was inevitable that Grayson would have his elbow scoped. As I've said before, Despite all the great medical advances that have been out there, nothing's really changed in some ways. The treatment of shoulder and elbow injuries is rest and therapy from your training staff, anti-inflammatories like Motrin and whatnot, injections, typically cortisone, occasionally PRP. If that all fails, you get surgery. And obviously, surgery has a rehab period. In Grayson's case, he's obviously failed rest. He's been basically off since spring training. He's been on anti-inflammatories, I'm sure. I'm sure he's been injected. I'm sure his imaging, which we don't have access to, has not dramatically changed. So the only option is to go into the elbow and see what you find. The good news is that these elbow arthroscopies, since he doesn't need a ligament reconstruction, are relatively straightforward procedures. The bad news is just about every pitcher out there who's over 27, 26, 27 years old has spurs in his elbow. I've taken care of Hall of Famers who have big spurs, and they've pitched with them for 15 years. So the fact you have a spur doesn't necessarily mean taking it out is going to help you. They feel that the impingement where the spur is bumping into the back of his humerus is a major issue here, is a logical step, and it's pretty much all they can do, but it's not a chip shot in the sense that once they get in the elbow, they may find other signs, typically of a little arthritis, some softening of the cartilage, that may also be part of the problem. These things typically show up in MRI, but there are some subtleties that the MRI doesn't pick up. So the answer is does not have an option but to get in the shoulder. Since they know he has a little spike of bone back there, taking it out is what everybody would almost certainly recommend. Hopefully, they may find some tiny loose bodies back there that may in fact be on the MRI that they haven't revealed to us. And then you rehab him. But he's been very carefully managed. As I said in an earlier show, I'm sure he's made the national tour and probably seen Meister and or Elatrash. And the oral training staff knows all the information. They're very good. So it's a consensus decision. It's made in conjunction with the player, his agent, his family, and all the consulting docs, and of course the Oriole front office. But any team would have followed the same path, and we just have to hope that removing that spur does resolve the problem, which is not an absolute, but a good bet.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bordy. I know you have a follow-up.
No, well, I know, the debris cleanup in the elbow for Rodriguez is one thing, but I was going to bring up Batista and his shoulder, and just the swelling on a shoulder and the inability to get an X-ray or an MRI. Is that standard? And is there swelling enough in a shoulder to not be able to see anything?
Well, I believe he had an MRI, and they've been very vague about that. So that may mean that they found something that's worrisome in his shoulder, and they're not quite sure how to address it from both a healthcare point of view and potentially a trade point of view. Or it may mean that most of the structures in his shoulder look pretty good, but it's still swollen. And I mean, you just don't want to speculate since we have nowhere near enough information. But just for example, there are systemic conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, where people get swollen joints from an autoimmune point of view that has nothing to do with their baseball career. We have no reason to think that, but as I said earlier when we discussed this, the Orioles are usually very transparent with their medical information. So I don't think they're hiding anything. I think they're finding that there's no obvious reason for the shoulder to be swollen, and they're still trying to get some opinions as to what could be causing this.
All right,
it is worrisome. I used to say when I lectured a lot that when you do revision surgery, even if what you're revising is in terrible shape, if you know what you want to fix, you can usually make it a lot better. When you go on fishing expeditions or exploratories and you're not exactly sure what you're looking for, the results are much less consistent. Just like if you bring your car in and they just start changing all the parts because they don't know what to change, that frequently is a long process.
All right, Dr. Michael Jacobs, brought to us by the law offices of Michael A. Friedman from one of his many summer retreats at an undisclosed location. Always appreciate your input. We want to thank all our sponsors out there. We really are grateful for their support. We couldn't do this podcast without them.
In a city where passion runs deep, on the stage and on the field, Baltimore knows how to bring the heat. Whether it's a game-winning home run or a breathtaking violin solo, this town plays to win. The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra champions the creative soul of our city with bold performances of classically captivating music. Join the team that brings precision, power, and heart to every performance. Learn more and get your season tickets now at thebco.org.
They say it all comes back to your roots, right? At Grassroots, high-quality cannabis is in their nature. From soil to soul, their passion for cannabis and community inspires everything they do. Try your favorite strains from their cultivar library of top-shelf flower, pre-rolls, and concentrates. Whether you're cheering from the stands or chanting for the O's at home, their crafted flower helps you curate the perfect game day. Ask for Grassroots Cannabis at your favorite dispensary in Maryland.
Hello, my name is Reese Friedman, and I'm the daughter of Stephen L. Friedman and Rachel Friedman.
Hi, I'm Reese Friedman. A little bit older from the last time you saw me, but still the daughter of Stephen and Rachel Friedman and the granddaughter of Michael Friedman. Now, I'm here to tell you that the law offices of Michael Friedman are still the experts in the field of personal injury accident law. So if you or a loved one have been seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident, I do not want you to hesitate. Call us at 410-363-6848 or email us directly from our website, maflaw.com, for a free consultation. The law offices of Michael Friedman, serving the community for over 40 years.
Jerry Coleman here. I've been a client of the law offices of Michael A. Friedman for well over 25 years now. From motor vehicle accidents to other tort-related issues, 410-363-6848, or find them on their website at maflaw.com.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every grand slam. Sounds like a ball if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
Also, it says here that we couldn't do this podcast without senior executive producer Chip Franklin, if I read that correctly. So thanks for his help. Thank you all for watching and listening. Be kind, be real, and make sure to be back next week for another episode. Adam Jones joins us, the Hall of Famer, next week on the Bmore Baseball Podcast. See ya.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.